Tap into your own magic because it's there. Believe it, see it, and search ruthlessly for it. Because what will come for is love, is your magic, and you can have a life of endless ripples and make an amazing positive impact on all of humanity.
Welcome to another episode of Bigger Than the Hustle podcast. And now I have my next international guest all the way from America. Now, Tara is someone that our paths have crossed recently, and she's become someone quite close to me. And I wanted to share some of her light and share some of her energy on the podcast. And thankfully, she said she would. So I'm super excited. So I'm going to introduce her. Her name is Tara, and she's a heart-centered coach for professionals. So she will talk about that a lot more, but I'm just going to say hello to her. Hi, Tara.
Hello, Bhavik. Thank you for having me.
Not at all. Thank you so much for coming on. I know you've been nervous, and I know this is not a natural space for you, but I'm so glad that you can sit and talk to my listeners and share some light, and we'll just have a conversation between us, if that's all right. Yeah. So I'm going to hand over the mic to you. If you can introduce yourself and how you come into the world and what you're about, and then we can go with the conversation from there.
Great. So before I answer how I come into the world, I have to answer where I am in the world. I'm not in America. I'm in Canada.
You are?
In Alberta. Yeah, no, that's okay. I love our American friends, but I am a Canadian. Yeah. And I live in Alberta on a farm with my husband and 3 children. Actually, 2 children now. The oldest one's moved out and on his own. And I am what I call a heart-centered coach for mostly professional women. And when I say heart-centered, I mean these are typically women that have spent their lives serving others and then lost themselves in the process. And they come to me feeling stuck and just maybe not even knowing who they are or what they want, but just know that there's nothing left and they want something more. They want to live again. And so that's the work that I get to do. And every time I get off a call, I said to my husband, I'm like, I can't believe I get paid to do this work. It's such an honor.
Beautiful. Now, where did this come from? So if you went to your careers advisor at school, I'm sure you couldn't even word what you do right now. So where's this trajectory or journey come from? Where did it start from in terms of your thought moving in this direction?
Sure.
And then if you go a little bit into that.
Yeah. It started from me. That was me. And it started when I was really young. I still remember being a teenager and having this desire to want to help people. And in my 16-year-old brain, the best way that I figured I could help people, mostly like women in particular, was as a hairdresser, because if I could make them feel beautiful, then I would be helping them. And I remember telling my grandfather that, and he kind of looked at me and he was like, what else you got? And so, it maybe came from a place of judgment but also from a place of wanting more for me and knowing that my impact could be greater. And so my first career, this is my 3rd career, I say. It's like every 10 years I get an itch. And my first career was as a registered nurse. And I particularly served parents that have just had babies in a special program. It was a home visitation program where I would visit them on the long term. And they had a lot of social problems and things that got in the way of parenting their children. And so I helped the parents so that they could help their children. And really, it was like a very much a social work program, but it was volunteer through our health authority. And I wasn't even a parent yet. Like, I can't believe they hired me to do that job. It was probably some of the best preparation I had for becoming a parent. So very, very grateful. And And from there, I went into, I quit nursing to homeschool our children. And so I spent 3 years homeschooling our children, and then went, oh my gosh, this is the hardest job ever. And then I decided I needed to go back to nursing. There were some extra other things at play here on the farm and with my husband. And so I needed to go back. I started getting my refresher course. And at the time, my parents were just starting a business and they needed some extra help. And I needed the money to pay for my refresher course to go back to nursing. And one thing led to another, and their business started booming. It was so much fun just building a business with them that I eventually bought in as partner and looked after human resources and marketing for the company. And I did that for just right around 10 years also. And then I got the next itch. And the next itch came along as, again, so this company is in the motorsports industry, and I wasn't serving in the way that I knew I was designed to serve and to help others. Learned so much as a business owner and working with my family. But I knew there was more in me to give. And so that's when I got out of the company and started coaching.
So what was it about coaching that inspired you? Just say you wanted to work more with people individually and try and help and support in that.
Yeah, great question. So I remember I said I was taking my refresher course to go back to nursing. Okay. We'll circle back there. But at the time, I was going through a really rough spot in my life, and nothing was as it seemed. My marriage was on the rocks. My kids were rebelling, and I wasn't happy in the job that I was doing. And I somehow found the book Daring Greatly by Brené Brown. And it changed my life. Like, I swear she was talking to me. That was my story. And that was like the first sign of hope that it didn't have to be like this, and that I could do more, and life could be better, and I could be happy. And so I started just learning everything I could about her. And I went on her website, and here she offered this program called the Daring Way training. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to do that training. But in order to take the training, you needed to be a professional, like a registered nurse designation, or a coach, or a social worker, whatever. So I actually had two choices in front of me. I could go back and complete my nursing refresher course, or I could be a coach. And when I did the research, I was like, oh my gosh, no way am I going to go back to nursing if I can be a coach, when I understood what coaches did.
There you go. And why was it that you chose females, professionals, as your people that you help and support? What was it about you that appealed, that they appealed to you?
For me, it was being able, like, within myself, I knew that there was so much untapped potential within me. And when I started to just take those steps in the right direction, I knew my impact could be massive. And I wanted to be able to do the same thing for others. And so my mission in life is to live a life of endless ripples. And kind of like you were talking before the podcast around, you can drop those little stones in the water, but then when you mobilize others to do the same, it just becomes massive. It's exponential.
Definitely. Now, let's talk about a young Tara. Now, growing up was in Canada you grew up as well? Is that where you're born and raised? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So during that time as a young Tara, who do you think was the most influential person in your life?
I want to say, like, my parents for sure. But outside my parents, I would have to say my grandparents, my maternal grandparents. It's getting me emotional.
Tell me a story. Tell me a story about them.
Sure. So just to kind of set it up a little bit, my parents were very young when they had me. My mom was 16, my dad was 18. And so I spent a lot of time with my grandparents. I knew their friends just as much as I knew my own family, and got to do lots of sleepovers. When I was 10 years old, my parents built a house on down the road from my grandparents' farm. And we got to live with my grandparents for 6 months while our house was being built. And it was just so much fun. And I remember staying up late one night, helping my grandfather and my dad, and we were looking after the grass. And they don't do this much anymore, but we burned the ditches and burned off all the old grass. But it was just so cool. 10 years old, staying up late and playing with fire. Is anything better? My grandfather taught me how to ski. And it was during that time we were there that he took us skiing to the mountains on trips. And then I guess another really cool story is the house that we live in is my grandparents' house.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so the farm that they lived in and that my mom grew up on is now it's all houses. It was close to the city limits. And this farmhouse that we're living in was built in 1929 by my great grandfather and his brother. And it's you can just see all the woodwork. It's all hardwood. I don't know what it's like in the UK, but it's kind of a big deal here to have all the original textures and things like that. And so we moved it. We picked it up and moved it to our farm. It went about 100 kilometers total to get here. And
how does that even happen?
Right?
How do you move a house? That me and my son, we talk about this thing where we say, let's talk about eventualities that in the future, what would you like to happen? And he goes, I would love that we could go on holiday with our house. So we could fly to another country with our house, yeah? So you get the enjoyment of those where you get your home comfort zone. That's a brilliant idea. I said, but you can't move houses. But you've just told me something that's broken all my paradigms of belief that you moved your house. So how did that happen then? You physically moved the whole thing? Is that?
Yes. I'll post it on my social media, the video of the house moving down the road. And so here in Canada, all of our houses, or most of them, have basements. And so they jackhammered out the foundation, put hydraulics underneath, lifted it up and slid beams. And then they were able to move the beams onto a set of wheels.
And then off you go.
Off it goes.
Wow. That's amazing. I'm sure even just seeing that, when it's
right. It's pretty wild.
Now, if we go back to some of the listeners now, right? So we have a lot of females that listen to this, and you help and support female professionals that are they transitioning, or they're at a moment in their life where there's a bit of confusion as in to their own purpose? What is it that you actually do?
I would say probably the word that comes up is just stuck.
Okay.
Stuck.
Yeah.
I don't know what's next. I don't know why. I don't know where. I just don't like where I'm at right now. Yeah.
Okay. And is that women within careers or within their own business, or not in careers trying to get into a career? What kind of?
I would say all of the above. Okay. But working with women entrepreneurs is really my sweet spot.
Fine.
Because
Yeah. And if there's anyone listening that may be feeling stuck right now, what advice could you give to try and shift them a little bit?
The answer is within you.
Mm-hmm.
You have everything that you need within you. And that I believe in you. And there's lots of people that believe in you. Mm-hmm. And you just need to believe in yourself and love yourself. And it's just a little bit of gently peeling away to discover the magic within you, because everybody has magic within them.
And why do you think that little flame of magic or the little fire of magic gets hidden away? What are the things that happen to, especially with females, because what I've noticed, especially even with my wife and things, there's so much you take on board. There's so many roles that you try and play that you almost forget about you as a person, as a human being, taking off all the masks and all the hats. Mm-hmm. And it almost feels like a lot of the stuckness may come from there because you've lost connection to yourself as a person without the mother hat on, without the friend hat on, without the sister hat on, without the grandma hat on, whatever it is, right? Totally. So how can you reconnect to that?
How can you reconnect to that? It's just a matter of going within and discovering what's there. So helping them remember. You know, I take them back to their childhood and ask them, you know, some of the same questions you just asked me. What is it about your childhood? Tell me about the times when you were just like on fire for life. And those are little clues. We have all these little clues along the way. And so it's almost like a grand adventure in discovering those things.
And I found that only when you make time to go quiet and become introspective in a moment where there's so much noise and there's so much information that's being thrown our way and there's so many things that are just going on, right? And to create that space of just being, of trying to shut all those things off and just, even for a few moments, just sitting quietly with ourselves and just accepting this is who we are, this is where we are, and really trying to reconnect with that person that's inside of us, you know. And unless we do it consciously and unless we do make the time to make that happen, I don't think it can, because so many things pull at us, don't they, on our time. And the only time we have quiet sometimes is sleep. And then even that time, it's a bit noisy with the dreams we have.
Yes. Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly, Bobik. But even before that is giving yourself permission to stop, to be quiet, to believe that you deserve that time. And that was something for me that I really had to overcome, that this is essential for my health and my well-being. And like, damn it, I deserve it.
And it's a worthiness, isn't it, at the end of the day? It's such a huge topic that's not even talked about so much in that thing of self-worth, right? And I find that, I know I've been through moments where you question yourself and you know that, am I even worth this, or am I even worth talking to this person or doing this or whatever it is? And I think as I've got older and now that I've been through a load of shit in the process, I've come out the other side thinking, you know, my opinion of myself has to be higher than anyone's opinion of me. And if that's the case, then I know I can come into the world as my true honest self, because I'm not hanging on anyone else's opinion of me, right? And as a man, I know that can be seen as easier, right? In terms of just not having that, not even the hang-ups, but just the thoughts of, I want to put myself first at some point, you know, even though I am a dad, even though I'm a brother, even though I am a business owner, whatever it is, I'm going to put myself first, because if I don't put myself first, then no one's going to get the best of me. And if no one's going to get the best of me, then how am I helping anyone that's in my life, or even myself, which is the first person, right? Yeah. And I know that's a huge conversation and huge topic. But I think a lot of it starts from there, a lot of it starts
100%.
That introspective thing. Now, let's lighten, let's go forward now. Okay, Tara?
Okay.
So we're now, 10 years in the future, and Tara's sitting here and we're having another conversation. I say, Tara, we've had an amazing, let's go 3 years, because that's more realistic. Let's go.
Okay, sure.
So we're moving 3 years into the future, and you're like, oh, Bandem, last time we did that podcast, this is what all the things that have happened, and this is where I am, and this is where it is. For that to be true, what would you be saying to me right now?
Oh, what's happened in the last 3 years?
Or where you are now based on your journey over the last 3 years for it to be awesome?
Yeah. Well, my impact is exponential, and that, and I've had this impact through a book that I'm writing, or that I've written, and it's now turned into a series of books for mothers and children, speaking about that exact thing that you were saying, Bhavik, about our worth. And so it's a book for children, young girls, but also for their mothers. And this book and this series of books has opened up stages for me to speak to, large amounts of people, and really just have a huge impact on this conversation around worth, enoughness, self-love, all the beautiful things that make a strong foundation for individuals, but for communities and for nations.
Because the communities and nations are at the core of it, people together, right? 100%. And that's what it is. Yeah. We're one symbiotic system called the universe, and we are all individual cells within that, making the whole system strong, right? I think it's our role as human beings to be the strongest we can within ourselves, so that the whole system works. And I believe we are all interconnected somehow, and we are all part of this thing. And without it doesn't work without you or without me. We fulfill a role. And I think one thing that helped me understand the beauty of us being on this planet. Now, this resonated with me deeply, and realized that I am here for a purpose, even though sometimes I don't even know what that is and why I'm here or what my role is in this game. But for my parents, now this can be quite an awkward thought, but I'm going to put it out there anyway. For my parents to procreate exactly at that moment, for me to be the first of 400 million sperm to reach the egg, and to come through that 9-month process and be in the world, is amazing anyway, right? It had to happen exactly at that moment in time for me to appear. Okay, so my dad's journey and my mom's journey to be together and to procreate exactly at that moment in time is amazing, for the amount of decisions we make as human beings. Anything can change that, right? Now, go before that, and both sets of grandparents had to do exact same thing to procreate, to produce my mom and dad, to produce me. Now, if we keep going back to 50 generations, how many people had to be involved in that pyramid to be exactly at that moment in time for me to be here today? Now, I think about that and I think it's almost impossible why I'm here. So therefore, there has to be a reason why I was chosen to be here, to be on this planet, make some kind of to make some kind of difference, whether it be tiny within my own home or whether that be out in the world, whatever that is. I know there's a reason, and sometimes we can sit here and question ourselves. I'm worth nothing. I don't know why I'm here. And when I realize that, when I realize the enormity of that game that the universe had to create for me to be here, then I realize that don't question that. Don't question that, because we are meant to be on this journey, and let's just be the best we can. And there's so many things like that happen in life, isn't there? That like sliding doors moments, I call them. The sliding doors moments where you one decision and it could have all been different, right? But now I've realized that this is life. This is life. Whatever we're doing, we're talking on this podcast right now. It's not the life that's going to happen in 3 years. It's not what's gone before. It's what we're doing right now. And in every moment, I'm washing the car. This is life. I'm washing the dishes. This is life. I'm washing, I'm doing my laundry, and I hate doing my laundry, but this is life, And when you realize that every moment is life,
yes,
then how can we just change our thoughts and impact that, right?
I'm going to remember that when I'm doing laundry and cleaning my house this afternoon.
You just keep saying to yourself, this is life, right? And when that becomes a habit, it's true. When it becomes a habit, you realize that every single moment is life. So at any moment you could say, I'd like to be doing something different, but right now this is life, and this is the decision I'm making. And as soon as we have that, everything shuts into actually just enjoy it.
Thoughts are so powerful.
Nothing else. It's so simple from my basic knowledge of everything, but it's helped me a lot. So now, something in your quieter moments, Tara, is there anything that you're proud about yourself that no one really knows?
Wow, that's a great question, Bhavik.
It's an interesting one because there's so many things that we do quietly, right? And you may not see it as a huge thing, but it's something that you're proud of just because of maybe where you've come from or how you've developed, or something that you do that the previous self would have said, that's never going to be Tara, but you do it right now. So what is it?
I would say just recently, so in talking about like the demographic or the people that I serve, I was having a really hard time putting myself out there, whether it's sharing my stories on social media. And what I realized was that I was still carrying around some shame around my story of having this not feeling worthy. And the last couple of weeks, I feel like I've been prolific in sharing on social media, in writing and sending, messages to my newsletter or my email list. And I realized that something has shifted with that shame, and I don't carry that shame anymore. And in fact, it's almost a sense of pride, because I've reached this level of self-love that doesn't matter anymore. And it allows me to be more available, more vulnerable, and authentic for the people that I want to serve.
And it's so beautiful when you can share your truth, isn't it? Because that's 100%. All we have, isn't it? And I find that the more we turn up with our truth, the more that the universe mirrors that back with the other people that are in front of us.
Oh, it's so true. Can I tell a story about that?
Of course you can.
So I was on a call the other day with some other coaches, and we were talking about, different clients. And so I have a number of clients that are like 2015 Tara. And we were talking about, attracting the 2025 Taras. And so I wrote it out, and I had like 2 paragraphs of 2015 Tara clients and 2025 Tara clients. And it was like that message that I wrote about who these were. It's like it flew off my computer screen out into the universe and returned the very next day as a lead in my inbox.
Wow. That quick.
Yeah. Just like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how did that feel?
Oh, like I'm vibrating right now, isn't it? Even as I'm like telling the story. Yeah.
You know what's really interesting about that story, Tara, is a lot of the time we base our future on our past, right? So we say, this is the experience I have of life, and therefore my future will be what I know. But what you realize in moments like that is the future is whatever we want it to be.
Yeah.
We just have to believe big enough, right? And we have to lift ourselves out of. And it's a thing. I know you've been in a religious community for a long time, and that's something that the word faith, right? So the word faith is an unwavering and unknown belief in something that we have no real evidence in our current environment that is even true, but something that we hold on to know that there is some possibility, right, out there. And what I realize is that if we just plodded our lives in the same way as where we've come from, so we look back and we project our future, we live a very limited way because we believe only this is possible because my parents did this, my grandparents did this, or I've only ever had a lack mentality, so therefore I'm going to continue. And when you realize that, that's the choice I'm making. I'm just making a choice that that's the way my future is going to be. But at any time, I can choose again. And those choices, again, come from expanded awareness of people around us, the conversations we have, the, like the information that we get. And then we realize that future can be whatever I want it to be. I just have to hold on to something that I believe is possible and let the universe almost work it out for me from there. And that's what you did, didn't you?
No, it's so powerful. So this is a very new way of thinking.
It is
for me. In the last couple, I would say maybe even just a year. So it's it's very exciting, and I love playing in this arena and exploring and just discovering what's possible. And
the muscle you will need to build is every time you someone tries to pull you back to that old way, is to then use your muscle to say, no, that doesn't serve me anymore. No. And there will be moments when it's uncomfortable, and there's be moments when sometimes explaining is not going to serve you because the person listening does not want to hear that. So you can say, I will listen, I'm zoned out. But at the moments when you need to talk to yourself and say, even though I know there's nothing that tells me this is true, I believe it's possible. And that's
totally. I have a file on my phone that I refer to on a regular basis of what both my husband and I are believing what can be true.
Good. And and something you've just said there, and it's so important, or it's so good that when you have someone on side as well. So I know, like you said, your husband, if you're both on the same page, it just makes things so much easier, doesn't it? That you can both move down the path together. Because I know there's married couples that are just bipolar opposites, including my own mom and dad. But anyway, that's a different story. Now, but when one person is pulling in one direction because they believe it's good for them, and the other person, because that person is pulling it after they say, I'm going to do the opposite because they wind me up or whatever it is, and that can be almost like such a frustrating situation. Luckily, like me and my wife as well, we're both on the same page with a lot of things. There's so much gray in the middle where we will choose to disagree. But interesting. The bigger pictures, I can have a conversation there about possibility, about purpose and things, and that's a normal conversation. And it's nice within our home because our kids hear those conversations as well. So it's a normal environment, right? But like go to my dad. My dad is very health driven. So he's just finished a 1,000-mile walk, which you know about, for charity, which he did that. And my mom is the complete bipolar opposite. To plan anything, you have to give a 4 weeks notice before she'll do anything, So they're complete bipolar. He's very outgoing. She's very introverted at home, So there's both things. And I think they wind each other up so much that I was like, how did you even get married? But I'm glad they did, because then
I was going to say, add to that probability.
I reckon that happened. The universe put them together just for me. I think, this big spotlight syndrome I have about myself. But it's nice that when you're in a space where you're not fighting, where you're helping and support each other, because it is a battle sometimes. And when you're in an environment, especially a home environment, because that's the place you're meant to come back and recharge and regenerate and be ready for the next day, right? And if that's another battle in itself, at what point do you replenish?
Right. Yeah. And it wasn't like that for a long time. My husband, we're on, we had different visions of what we wanted. And so it feels great to be aligned.
Yeah. Perfect. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go into a 10 quick fire question round. All right. Now this is 10 random questions I'm going to ask you, Tara. And
Okay.
it's just the first thing that comes to your head. A lot of the time it doesn't even make sense, but just go with it, all right? And just to lighten the mood and just make a little bit of enjoyment here, okay?
Sure.
So here we go. Okay, 10 questions. You ready?
Go for it.
What is your favorite song?
Ooh. Probably the one that comes to mind was the is it the Head and Heart song from the RLI? That's been like a big song for me lately.
Yeah, Head and Heart. Perfect.
Yeah.
What is your favorite summer activity?
Ooh, road trips, exploring parts of Canada, the Rockies with my family.
Perfect. If you had a yacht, what would it be called?
Oh. The Magic Princess.
If you were stranded on a tropical island, what 2 things would you want with you?
My e-reader. And probably like a hammock or athletic shoes.
Perfect. What is your favorite cuisine?
Mexican.
Who is your favorite superhero and why?
Oh, I am not a superhero person. Okay, can I just pick like a movie, a movie character? Maria from The Sound of Music.
Okay.
Because when she was living in the Abbey, like she was stifled and in a box and didn't fit in, and it's because her gifts weren't being used properly. And when she opened up, her magic was able to come out, and it came out in song and dance and just aliveness.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how cool are you?
How cool am I? I would say like a 6. I don't think I'm cool. I'm like fun and dorky and alive, but cool isn't one of the things that I'm.
And if your kids were asked that same question, what would they answer for their mom?
Oh, that's a great question. I think my daughter would probably give me a 7 or an 8. My youngest son wouldn't care. Like, what does that mean? He's 6.
And if you could write a book about your life, what would it be called?
Be something about like magic on the back half.
Brilliant. But you've not even reached your back half yet. So how do you know that? Is that what you're building to?
I'm just hitting my stride now.
How old are you?
I am 44.
And where do you envisage your journey is going to end in age?
In age? 90s.
I think over 100 these days, really. Realistically.
Do you? Yeah. All right, bring it on.
Yeah. It's funny. If I call my son in right now and ask him how long daddy gave to, he'll tell you 106. And I've told him everyone knows mine is 106 because I think it's possible. I'm 45 years old and I feel awesome. Like I feel brilliant, Yeah. And if I feel like this now, and I know when other 45, when I was 15 and I saw 45-year-old, that was an old man. And I will tell you straight, he was an old man. But he wasn't a 45-year looked at and felt like me right now. So
it wasn't a 45-year-old Bavik.
Yeah, man. I'm going to be the granddad that's still on the dance floor, rocking out, going out with his mates.
Yes. Right? I hear you. Yeah.
Now, there's a couple more questions which I'd like to ask you to get you a little bit, so listeners get a little bit deeper understanding about Tara. Okay. Now, we're reaching that time we just talked about where you're at the end of your day. So we're going to call it 150, okay, to save the arguments here. So you've reached 150 and you're in the last moments of your life. Now, you don't have enough energy to speak, but you have enough energy to share 3 words. Now, these can be 3 words together or 3 independent words. Now, these 3 words have resonated with you all your life. And if you could share them with the world, it may help them think a little bit differently. So what would those 3 words be for you and why?
One word just comes to mind: love. Like, above all, love. Love for self, love for others, love for the universe.
Yeah. That's such a simple word, but such a brevity and gravitas to the feeling behind that. And it is so true that if we start within and then go without and then everywhere around, what more? What more does the world need, especially now? What more does the world need apart from that? So fully agree.
And even love has so many meanings and connotations depending on who is interpreting it.
Yeah.
But even just like simplifying it to the neuroscience of our brains, that when we are in this place of love, it's like the front of our brains that are fired up, that lead to things like curiosity and creativity. And it's like, but love is the root of all of that, like of anything that's possible, and the beautiful positivity in life. So it's so big, just like you were saying, Bhavik.
Now, this podcast is called Bigger Than the Hustle, and right now you're bigger than the world. So I've got a mic that's connected up to 7.58 billion people on this planet. They can all hear you. They're all awake. They're all conscious. There's no language barrier, and they can all understand what you're saying. If I could share this mic with you for the next 30 seconds, what would your message be to the world?
It would be tap into your own magic, because it's there. Believe it, see it, and search ruthlessly for it, because what will come forth is love, is your magic, and you can have a life of endless ripples and make an amazing positive impact on all of humanity. Go.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Tara. Thank you for the way you've turned up today. You've shared, you've been vulnerable, authentic, and that's all I've asked for all my guests. Thank you for coming into my life as well recently, the way you have, and the way we've shared and the way we've connected. That is really special to me. Thank you for turning up. Thank you for showing up, and thank you for being you in whatever you feel you is. I get so much out of just being in your space and the space that we've created for ourselves. And it's just an enormous relief that we know there's humanity that are on the same journey as us. And if we could all shed our masks sometimes and shed our hats that we wear just to be human with another human being in front of us. And that's what you've shown me, the ability to just love and to care for another human being. So thank you so much for being in my life for that reason. And I know we're going to know each other for a long time. Unfortunately for you, fortunately for me, unfortunately for you, for a long time.
That's a lie, Bobby.
And when this thing, this situation that the world is in allows us to be connected closer, I am going to make a trip out to Canada. I want to see your farm. I want to see this depth in your history. That
would be so cool. We have baby calves right now that are just born, and we have 2 of them like just outside the window that unfortunately they need to be bottle fed, but they're so fun and so cute to get to feed them.
Love it.
And I'd like to just take a moment to thank you, Bhavik, for having me on your podcast. But more than that, for being you and for shining your light and being an inspiration to all those in your world and all those who have the honor of knowing you and meeting you, myself included. So I too look forward to more beautiful conversations like this.
Thank you. I never know how to handle it, so now I just accept it. Like Rich said on our intensive, imagine everything that everyone tells you, believe that it's true. And now I'm trying to do that. The humility in us always tries to defend that, doesn't it? But now I sit with an open heart and accept that. And it helps me a lot as well. So thank you so much for that, Tara. Now, so this was Bhavik Patel, and I'm your host of Bigger Than Hustle. And right now, I just need to leave you with a few thoughts before we go. Big energy leads to big thoughts. Big thoughts lead to big ideas. Big ideas lead to big actions, and big actions lead to a big life. So keep thinking big. Until next week, goodbye.
If I'm earning the same 20 grand and I'm spending my spare money on, donating shoes to the homeless or whatever, when I come into money, that's going to get magnified, and I'm going to start a foundation or, do something good with that money. The money is a magnifying glass.
So true.
And the difference between those two people is the belief about who they are.